have what it takes to be awarded as the best in the business, here is your chance to apply. Head on over to our website, download the form and apply. If you face any troubles when applying or feel the need to get in touch with us directly, email us, call us, tweet at me directly at Sunanda_J or join our Facebook group.
Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, 18 Hours Daily Initiative that celebrates the undying entrepreneurial spirit of micro, small and medium enterprises. This is the only daily MSME platform in the country. We understand all the concerns that you, the MSME entrepreneur, face, and this show aims to bring you face to face with our experts to answer all of your queries. Today, this is a special conversation with Niranjan Hiranandani. Let me start this conversation by talking about GST and the changes that it's going to bring about for your industry.
See, I don't see any problem in the long run, but there are huge concerns in the short run because real estate as an industry is faced with so many other taxes which are actually not going to be sorted out by GST, namely stamp duty, VAT, service tax, all these other taxes, locals which have been coming in terms of the municipal taxes that are coming into it, like land under construction, development charges and other things. Now, if these are going to be consolidated into GST, there's no problem. But if they are going to be a GST plus those other taxes, I'm afraid that the cost is actually going to go up.
You're saying there are going to be some other taxes possibly. I'll come to that in a bit, but would you say that overall it is definitely a welcome move because it's definitely going to bring about more clarity for your industry?
I think it will be very useful for the manufacturing side because what really happens is that you are entitled to a complete set-off when you sell the products. So that part of the GST which is there will only be on the marginal cost of what is your add value because you'll be able to set off the earlier taxes. And I think that's a wonderful story as far as the small, medium or big manufacturers are concerned. I think it's a very positive sign that we are going to see. So I think they should be delighted. However, I think there's going to be some time before this can all be set and to see that adverse taxes which are going to take place in some industry or the other is not mitigated, you're going to have a lot of problems. So until the whole system is not set and the benefits of set-off are not clarified completely, I think there will be initial hiccups, but wonderful for the long run because people will then be able to understand what their taxes and ultimately is going to be and have to get used to that.
So let's talk about the other taxes that you were mentioning in your first answer, sir. If these other taxes, these local taxes, for example, are not going to be subsumed under GST, what kind of lack of clarity will that possibly bring about to the GST regime? And what is your own suggestion to our viewers in terms of how they can go about preparing for that?
We are trying to represent to government that we need to subsume all these other taxes into one. And then whatever is the tax rate, people will understand what the tax is all about. Otherwise, it becomes like hidden taxes, which are not seen by the end customers and still they are paying it. So we do need that clarification to do that. As far as the customer is concerned, today's date on an affordable house, we are paying about 33 to 34% tax if you count all these taxes put together. However, with GST coming in about, there is some people who fear that it may go up. Actually, this 33-34% will actually go up. In reality, for creating affordable housing as the Prime Minister desires it to be, we need to bring it down. So we'll all have to wait and watch as to what is there. One thing is certain, the government's intent to do affordable housing is not to be questioned. Hence, I think in that segment at least, we will have a mitigation of taxes and look forward to it. As far as the expensive houses is concerned, I think I would advise people to buy it before the GST regime really comes about, because that is something which becomes a question mark in the real estate, not the affordable segment, but the higher segment. You may be, hit with higher taxes. So I think it's better to buy today.
But let's talk about preparing for the GST that undoubtedly is going to be the number one regulation or change that the industry is bracing for. Your advice for our viewers in terms of how they should go about preparing for it?
I think the documentation systems within the organization should be absolutely transparent, because it's not only the GST but also the Real Estate Regulation Act which is coming to force, which is RERA. So I think a combination of GST and RERA will bring about a clarity to the customer exactly what is the costing of the flat in terms of cost of land, cost of construction and other things, because those are required now to be stated under the RERA Act. So all these factors, whether it is tax, whether it is the cost of construction, whether it is this, has to be properly documented, which is available to the public, because now it's going to be put on the web, and this information has to be given to the regulator also. If they have to draw the money out from the escrowed account, all this will have to be done. So I think the story would be that you should be as transparent as possible.
We have a call-in show here on the Leaders of Tomorrow, and of late most of our questions of course have been around GST and how MSMEs can go about preparing for GST. Your advice to our viewers who write into us or call us and tell us that they're worried about the additional cost they will possibly have to take on because of the GST changes, whether it's because of an auditor who's able to understand all the changes that have happened, or whether it's the software that they need to add or upgrade at their enterprises. Is that a valid cost? Do you think there's going to be a substantial increase in terms of the cost on MSMEs?
I don't think we should worry about that, because I think most of the companies, software companies, are already working towards it, and I think by the time GST comes into force, they will have the necessary amendments of software to do it. I don't think they need to worry about that. But the fact is that you need to maintain far more diligent accounts in terms of details, which probably many of them in the small sector did not maintain them. So they would be in danger because they wouldn't get a set off. So I think maintenance of more comprehensive records is the need of the day.
Speaking of regulation, let's talk about funding as well, and funding around regulation. And the first one I want to talk about is FDI. I do know that a lot of MSMEs, for example, will not necessarily qualify for FDI funding that comes into the real estate space. But your advice to possibly the SMEs who could be in a position to tap such FDI and how they should go about preparing for it?
My story is slightly different. I think there will be more FDI in this segment, because what has happened is that the opportunities in India are growing by leaps and bounds. The 7% growth plus 7% plus growth which is going to happen, is happening in India, is causing a large number of new projects to come onto the fold. And because these new projects are coming, there is an opportunity of smaller investments also coming in. There are lots of people overseas who want to put in smaller amounts of money through the FDI route. So I don't see that as a problem, though there is a $5 million issue as far as the projects are concerned in terms of putting a minimum size of investments are there. But I think all this is going to be behind us very soon, because government is very keen that FDI should come in, especially in the case of smart cities.
So then, are there one or two things that they should necessarily put in place as they count down or make themselves more ready for FDI?
I think first of all there should be very good transparency. They should be able to share all the information and put on the table the second factor, which is the risk factor. Most of the time we give a very glorified image of what the project is going to be, and we do not share the risks or the downsides which may happen. Now when you do that and there is a problem as far as the project is concerned, the other side just does not believe you, because you never shared risks and downsides possibilities with the investor. So I think the second part of it is very important, to share the ideas and the risks that are possibility to do. And the third, which I believe one should do, is to see that your recording of all transactions should be very perfect, and all that should be necessarily audited, shared information, changes in market situation should be clarified, and everybody there should be a high level of communication between the investor and the FDI investor and yourself. Because what tends to happen is that we tend to hide facts, changes in the marketplace, increasing in costs, delays in construction, all these are not shared with the investors.
Along with FDI, I want to talk about private equity and venture capital funding for the real estate space as well, sir. Talk to our viewers about how they possibly can make themselves more investment ready for this money that's coming into the industry.
Unfortunately, these are the medium and small players who are borrowing more and at higher rates of interest. So I don't see what you're saying as correct. Already the small and medium players are borrowing large sums of money and at very high rates of interest, which is dangerous. Any company which is today over leveraged after coming in of RERA could be in soup. Hence, this over leveraging, borrowing at high rates of interest can only produce problems at the end of the day.
How about REITs?
I think that's a wonderful instrument. We've worked on it for almost 14 years before it is brought into operation. I think a large number of people are going to opt for it. But more than REITs, it will be InvITs, investments in trusts in terms of infrastructure projects. I think it will be at least 20 times larger, the InvITs in terms of infrastructure projects investments, because those are very large. Mr. Gadkari has opened the infrastructure area with huge projects coming. All these, once they are executed, will be good ideas for InvITs or infrastructure funds along with REITs.
Let's take a very quick break on that note, but much more on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're with us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow, and we're in conversation with Niranjan Hiranandani to bring you everything you need to know for a real estate MSME business. You were talking about leveraging and the highly leveraged books of small real estate players, and I want to continue talking about that. What are the options, in your opinion, which are available to MSME real estate players at this point? Because the banks, of course, have started shying away from lending to the real estate space, even as it's sitting on decade-high NPAs. What are the options available in terms of funding then that you think are viable for MSME real estate players?
I think the options are the same, whether you're big, medium or small. You got to sell your assets in order to create the liquidity that is necessary. If your sales are not happening, you have to sell your assets. So whether they are land, whether they are built semi-built properties or whatever it is, I think you need to sell them. If you keep on borrowing more and more and have interest costs loaded onto your project, I don't think that's a very smart idea to do.
Sitting where you are, have you started seeing changes already in terms of bank lending and bank exposure to MSMEs?
I think the banks are continuing to lend, but they are very particular now that they will lend very carefully, and that is happening. Also, I see that I think there is caution all around as far as that is concerned, but I think there is money in the real estate space and there is banks which are lending, so there is no issue really there. But the question is, does everybody qualify for bank lending? Because they are already overstressed, so how do the banks go ahead and lend to them? So that's the question mark they face.
Has MCLR changed the lending rates as far as the industry is concerned? Have there been any positive changes on the ground?
No, I think that change is not taken up, though we expected it to fall down with interest rates coming down. But there has been no much change as far as reduction in rates of interest. In fact, as far as those which are stressed are paying much higher rates than others.
Since we've been talking about government regulation, I want to ask you maybe one more question on that. What's the one piece of government regulation that you would like to see for the real estate space come February next year?
I think one or two things which have happened this year and government needs to take credit for it is Mr. Devendra Fadnavis in Maharashtra. His ease of doing business has been put on the ground. We find things have changed and things are becoming easier in terms of approvals than it used to do before. However, at the grassroots level, we do still find people taking much more time, and I think but changes have definitely started.
This is a highly fragmented market, of course, as far as real estate in India is concerned. But do you think, and your advice for our viewers about how they can take on competition from large players?
I think the secret is really to keep up your commitments, and I think an execution. I think if you're honest to your commitment to the customers and the customer is satisfied with your commitment, you will get repeat customers. In fact, the references from old customers is the strongest sale, marketing you can have. And that's the story I would like to tell every developer. Make good products, be honest and clear and ethical with your customer, and they will become your repeat customers.
One part of working with large players is competition, the other strategic tie-ups. Have you started seeing tie-ups between small players and large players? What are the opportunities? I want you to talk our viewers through what the opportunities are in terms of working with larger players, how you see that happening in the industry, and your advice and thoughts.
Lot of it is happening. A large number of small players are tying up with branded names, and they're using the branded names in terms of doing the marketing, sales and structuring, because the market disbelieves unknown names now, and they're not sure that the product will be developed to the quality that they say they will, or they are not confident, etc., to be done. So people are not willing to put their money with such developers. So I think a lot of consolidation will take place in the next couple of months. Plus, what you said, there will be a correlation between handling development of projects with large developers or branded developers.
Since you're talking about just how fragmented the real estate market is in India, is that a strength or is that a challenge according to you?
So I think there is a niche market available in the real estate play, and that's excellent. Some people do only commercial, for instance, or some people do retail a lot. So I think all that is available, and whether it's location or segmentation, a lot of it is available today.
I want to take that point forward and talk about what advice you'd have for our viewers about whether they should focus on their core areas, or whether you think that they should look at diversification, look at how they can enter other and newer markets and then bring down risk.
I would ask people to stay into an area which they are familiar with and good at. That should be 80%, 90% of your business. If you can do 10% moving out, it's fine. But when you move out a large segment, when you have no experience or exposure, it can be risky and dangerous.
We've been doing a series of interviews here on the Leaders of Tomorrow, talking to family-run, family-owned and family-managed businesses. And I want you to talk to our viewers about what the strengths, the challenges, the opportunities really that you see as far as family-run businesses are concerned in your particular industry.
I think the first thing is not to be, as a family-owned business, you must understand the importance of professional people in the business. And if you're not able to get the best professional help internally and externally, I think you're losing out a lot. The second part of it is that not everybody is in tune to be the best in the business. So the more you get professional help into the organization, the better it is. However, a mix of both can be the ideal situation, where you have a family-run business, but you have good professionals with you. I think that's the best and ideal.
We were talking about focusing on the core area or expanding earlier, and I want to tie that into this conversation that we're having on family-run businesses. A lot of our viewers write in to us to say, to ask our experts really about what they should do when it comes to succession planning and a successful succession planning model in India. Some experts give us to understand that it is crucial and essential that the next generation of the business is given the freedom to experiment with the kind of areas that they want to take the business into. Your advice, whether we are seeing enough succession planning happening in India right now, and if not, what small real estate players should keep in mind?
Yeah, exactly the story that you have said. My son builds 23 marina in Dubai. He wants to do oil and gas and bid for airports and do pipelines and ports and other things. So he's already moving on to other things also. And still at the same time in Dubai, he's built the second tallest residential tower in the world, 23 marina. So this is one of the things which is there, given liberty to my children to do what they want, and they have done it wonderfully. And we have good professional teams within the organization. So we are exactly what you suggest.
You were talking about RERA earlier. I want to circle back to that. What should our viewers keep in mind? What are some of the biggest changes that they will possibly see?
Transparency, giving all the information on record which the RERA requires as far as this is concerned. Be careful about completion of your project, which means execution has to be on time as far as that is concerned. And be overcautious in the beginning in terms of what statements you make to the public and the other people. You can't oversell yourself and then not commit, because the regulator will come down heavily on you if that doesn't come true.
Talk to our viewers about Skill India and what, in your opinion, they should keep in mind about manpower in this industry. This is an industry that relies heavily on manpower. What are the particular challenges that you face, and therefore what are some of the suggestions that you have about overcoming those challenges?
I think India is underemployed in many respects, and we don't get labor for our construction segment. So we have started a large segment of skill training in construction side and other side as CSR activity, and we find that very rewarding in terms of it, because there is an incremental availability of skills, and those people are getting higher wages and getting employment instantly. So in every segment, skill training is going to become increasingly important as the Make in India of Mr. Narendra Modi is going to really catch up. More and more skilled people will be needed to compete and be able to take employment. And the wonderful part is everybody gets employed, which is not the case in the case of graduates. So I think Skilling India is the only way out in order to see that the youngsters get employment today.
All right, as I wind down this conversation, what is the one piece of advice that you've possibly received from someone that has changed the way you think about your business, and what advice would you have for our viewers?
I think you need to have gurus, and not one, many gurus, to teach you all the time as to what is the next new thing that you need to do. So whether it's your professional part, whether it's your construction side, whether it's in strategic management, human resources, in terms of being able to communicate, I think we all need to learn. So it's a question of continuous education that we need to do in order to train ourselves, and I'm continuously learning every day today, and I learned a few things from you too. So all these factors become extremely important to keep learning.
Thank you very much for speaking with us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow. Do remember, this was, of course, expert advice for you, the real estate MSME player. If you have any questions for us, do write in at leadersoftomorrow@timesgroup.com. You can tweet at me personally. The handle is Sunanda_J. You can reach us on Twitter using the hashtag LOT, or call us on that number that you see flashing on your screens, and we promise to have all of your queries answered. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.
If you feel you have what it takes to be awarded as the best in the business, here is your chance to apply. Head on over to our website, download the form and apply. If you face any troubles when applying or feel the need to get in touch with us directly, email us, call us, tweet at me directly at Sunanda_J, or join our Facebook group.